religions in Sudan, and the peace treaty, peace agreement that has been sought and in some instances talked about. Let's give us some information in reference to what is going on about that agreement.
Yes, the peace agreement was signed in Nairobi, Nafasha in Kenya. So this was to bring the government in the north and the Sudanese, which is mostly Christians, enemies, and the northern Muslims, to at least to realize a peace in a peaceful Sudan. And in the agreement, there were two important things that I will talk. One was the general election, and the second was the referendum, which will take place next year, early January. So the general election was conducted in April. This was to, like I said before, that Sudan was being a country ruled by authorities. There have been a lot of killings, ethnic cleansing, and so the most important thing with the election of this comprehensive peace agreement was to transform the nation into a democratic nation. So when they did the general election in April, was that so that people elect their leaders, people who they know that they have to be in power to help their situations, who can render them services for the well-being of the societies. And the general election was conducted, and then the incumbent president, who is President Omar al-Bashir, from the north, was able to win the general election. But the results were not recognized. There was a lot of fraud and irregularities in the general election. But that was not the main focus of the people in the south, which are mostly the Christians and the enemies. What's most important is in the CPA to the people of the south was the referendum, which will take place next year. In the referendum, these people are going to vote, which is the people of the south, not Sudan as a whole. So in this process, they will determine whether they want to be united Sudan, so that we maintain the largest country of Africa as a united, or to separate as an independent state. This is the most important thing in the CPA, in the comprehensive peace agreement, which was signed in 2005. So the referendum will take place early January on the 9th of 2011. So that way the South can decide whether they be part of the Sudan or they have their independent states.
Now, now there's also an economic base to this division. Certainly there's religious division between Islam and Christianity here, but there's also oil on one end and no oil on the other end. Is that right? And now, why don't you explain that situation? Because I think that plays a significant role in reference to it, as you undoubtedly know.
Yes, these are most of the important things in the CPA. One was the sharing of wealth. Because in the CPA there were government of southern form. There are three structures of government form. There's a government of national unity, there was a government of Sudan, and there was a government of southern Sudan. So in the process of the comprehensive peace agreement, there was what they call sharing of wealth, of resources. So part of it was the oil. The oil wells are mostly in the area in the south. So this is one of the conflicts that brings also a problem to the people of the south. But before we didn't have an oil in the country. So it became an economic problem between the people of the south and the north, because this moment most people in the south depend on the oil producing, the industry of oil.
The revenue from the oil.
Or from oil. So most revenues come from oil. So this has been a part of the argument that how are they going to share the oil resources in a process that if the South become an independent state. So it's a lot of questions, but there have been a lot of commissions being formed who can work on these issues. It's things like the citizenship. How we're going to divide the citizenship, because these were the same people of one country, especially the demarcations of borders. We still have border issues between the north and the south. So these have been most of the crucial things that have to be fixed before the people of the south go for the ballot to determine their destination, whether it's being an independent state or being a part of the unity of Sudan.
And so when you talk to people from Sudan, do you find that they're very knowledgeable in terms of what is going on in Sudan? Or do they really care about what is going on in Sudan? I mean, what is the general outlook for individuals, perhaps like yourself, that are from Sudan and are facing some of the real challenges, you know, religious challenges as well as economic challenges? What are their outlook in reference to the ultimate settlement in reference to their country?
You see, most Sudanese who are here in the United States, let me say Canada, North America as a whole, Australia, Europe, most of them come, they have their families back home. So, our being here is also our being in Sudan. So what is happening in Sudan, if affect the families who are living there, it seems that who are also affected as being a part of the country in Australia, because they're the relatives, you know, some of them, you know, are still there in the country. So anything that is taking place in Sudan is a part of our issue, and it has to be looked at how this thing have been, what are the issues being taken place.
When the Christians and Muslims try to start rioting and fighting one another in Sudan, it has a tremendous impact, you're saying, on the people, on the Sudanese in the United States and Canada and Australia and everywhere else, and they are pained by this kind of violence. Would that be a correct assessment?
Yes. Most of these people were part of the, they were part of during the war, they were part of the, I don't know how I can put it, but they were part of the people who've been affected by the war. So they have experience.
Refugees.
Yeah, they were refugees. They were being in a country when the war started. So they will have the experience of the war, and when they went to the neighboring countries, you know, they were not having an option that they would be resettled in the different countries. But like for instance, when I was in Uganda, in Uganda, because I was in northern Uganda. So also in Uganda there were rebels who were also fighting in Uganda. So a part of it, we will become a victim of the Ugandan rebels who are operating in the north. So, so me just being a part of, you know, member, I mean, in a community of North America, so I have also experienced that I was a part of a victim of the war that happened in our country. So that's applied almost to everybody who are here, and so these are the issues.
It's a really painful experience to be from East Africa, especially with all of the situations, violence, and etc. It's a painful experience to have to be here among, quote, all of the freedom that you do experience, and etc., and then reflect that most of your relatives are still under these kinds of conditions that you're talking about now. I would imagine that's a very, very painful experience. Is that not right?
Yeah, that's very right. Like I say, and mostly I would say that 80% of African countries are not enjoying peace. So most of the countries that people went there, still they find that there are problems of that country. So when there are problems in that country, so you become also part of the problem, because you has been from another country to another country, usually you face difficulties. You know, starting a life as being a refugee is a very difficult situation. Especially there are most people whom their families were part of who joined the rebels, and some of the families who also joined in the government to fight the war. So they were also, and for them, as being in foreign countries, they were able to survive by themselves.
So the Civil War tore apart families, but it also tore apart nations, the various nationalities within those nations. Is that what we're saying? And is that one of the real issues of trying to bring about some kind of sanity? They call it democracy or whatever it is, but some kind of sanity in Sudan?
Yes, the conflict caused a lot of problems to the South. And the South were approaching all this time, so people suffered, 1 million people died, and all those people die for the cause of something.
Okay, Simon, I certainly appreciate the information that you've given us, but we've just about run out of time, and I want to thank you for bringing that information to us, because I think it's very, very important in terms of having an understanding. And of course, let me encourage our audience to tune in again next week for another informative edition of Comments. Thank you, and